Hey everyone, me again. Today I wanted to review the CYO Lifeproof Long Lasting Foundation. This costs £7.50, you can get it from Boots, and it comes in 14 shades. I'm using the palest shade today, which is 101. I've had a very kind of interesting experience with this foundation. It definitely was not love at first sight. I bought this after I saw the tailor review it, and when I first got it, I really hated it. I did not like it at all. We really didn't get on. It's only quite recently, in the last few months, that I've actually grown to like it. So I'll tell you why I hated it. Basically, it's a very kind of wet formula, and whenever I applied it, I just felt like it looked too dewy. Like, it looked so dewy that my face was basically greasy. Also, the shade is too dark. So it starts out looking like an okay match, but then it will just gradually get a little bit more orange, and it does have this kind of strange grey undertone to it as well. That's something I can never fix. I always mix this with another foundation whenever I wear it because it is so dark, but I can never get rid of that slight grey cast. So yeah, I can never get this to work. I kind of shoved it in the back of a drawer, and it's only very recently that I've come to like it, and I think that's partly because my skin has changed. It's winter at the moment, so my skin is just drier than usual, but suddenly because my skin is so dry and so textured, the fact that this is really overly dewy, it's definitely the most dewy foundation I own, that suddenly works really well for me. And for a while, when it was really cold in about January, this was really the only foundation that I could get to work on my skin because my skin was just too dry for anything else. So there's a couple of ways that I like to apply this product, but I always start out with the Revolution Baking Oil. That's just been my go-to primer over the winter months. It's really just helped my base products go on a lot more easily. However, if you didn't want a base that was quite so dewy, I would probably recommend trying a different primer. So as this foundation is too dark for me, I always mix it with something else when I wear it. If I don't, it just looks completely ridiculous. I can't get it to work. In this review, I didn't want to mix it with another foundation just so that you can get a better idea of what it actually looks like by itself. So I just mixed a foundation mixer, and I used the one from Obsession. This is a really pigmented white foundation mixer, and it's got a little bit of pink to it as well. So I mixed them together on the back of my hand. This foundation has a really nice medium coverage to it, so I like to stamp it on with a brush just to get the most coverage that I possibly can. But if you did want to sheer it out a bit, you could apply it with a sponge. That looks really beautiful as well. A sponge is a bit more forgiving because the formula is so wet, so you won't get the streaking with a sponge, but you will have to build it up a bit more because it kind of shears it out so much. Personally, I like to use a really dense brush like the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush just to stamp everything on it first, and then if I feel like it looks a little bit streaky after that, then I'll kind of go over everything with a sponge. You can see in the cutaway I've got half of my face with the foundation and half of my face without, and with one layer it has really evened out my skin. I do really like how it looks. You can also see just how wet my face looks at this point because it is such a dewy kind of product. So you're definitely going to need to set your face with this one. So I like to build up the product a little bit. I usually only need to build it up once or twice, just over the areas of redness where I need it. And then I will typically blend it a bit down my neck as well, because even though I mix it with a lightning foundation mixer, it will still oxidize just a smidge. Blending it down my neck a little bit will just help kind of ease that stark contrast between my very pale neck and my slightly darker face. After that, I'll usually use a slightly lighter concealer, so I'm using the one from Primark in this clip. And once I go over the kind of red blotchy areas of my face with the lighter colour concealer, I find that that just blends everything together a bit more, and it just looks a bit more like my natural skin colour. I always set everything with this foundation because it is so wet, it's so dewy that I kind of have to. So I'm using loose powder today. This one's from Revolution. I've really been enjoying it. And you can see that even though the base does start to look a little bit more matte once I apply the powder, you can still see that glow coming through. But I'm wearing it right now. This is the finished look, and you can see just how flattering it is. Even though I've set my face, I've definitely still got a little bit of that dewiness, a little bit of that glow, but it's at a much more flattering level than it was before. It really kind of smooths out my problem areas. So normally I have quite a bit of texture on my forehead, which is definitely toned down with this foundation. Normally my under eyes can look quite dry, but yeah, it's just really beautifully gone over everything. For me, the wear time is excellent, and that's really not something I expected from this foundation at all, because it is so dewy and so lightweight. I just assumed that it would wear off really quickly, because that's what dewy foundations normally do. Normally if I want something more long wearing, I have to go for a more matte formula that won't look as flattering at first, but will kind of settle into my skin as the day goes on. But with this, you get the best of both worlds. You get the dewiness from it, and you get the long wear time combined with the good coverage as well. I think that's just a lot of really good things to have in a foundation, and that's the reason why I do go to the trouble of just mixing it with other products, of just mixing it with other things just to make them a bit more dewy or to make them a bit more long wearing, because for me it's got so many good qualities that it is worth that effort. There is one thing that I really don't like about this product though, that I have to cover in this video, and that is the shade range. So like I keep saying, the paley shade in this one is way too dark for me, so I have to mix it with something. But also I was having a look at their shade range earlier, and it kind of sucks. So there's 14 shades, but honestly, most of them look very similar. A lot of them just look kind of medium tan kind of colour, and there's one slightly darker one just thrown in at the end. So I think if you've got a really deep dark skin tone, you're not going to be able to make this work, and if you're paler than me, you're really going to struggle with this as well. I don't think the product will work for you at all, even if you have a mixer. So yeah, I really hope that that's something they're working on. I hope in the future they come out with a lighter shade and a few more darker shades as well. If I don't have to mix this product every time I use it, I think I will like it a lot more, and I would love taking it traveling with me and out and about, just because the packaging is so light and so minimal. Yeah, it would definitely become an everyday foundation if I didn't have to mix it. With all those things considered, it's very difficult for me to say whether or not I recommend the foundation. I think some people will definitely like it, but only if they can find a shade that works for them. But on the other hand, if your skin is so dry that you really struggle to make foundation work for you, if you have pores, texture, any of that stuff that just makes foundation a bit more difficult, if your skin is starting to get its first fine lines, or even if you have mature skin, if you're anything like that, then you'll probably quite like this foundation if you can find a shade that suits you. So I really hope that that's something they're working on, because this does have the potential to be a really good product. The price point is good, the packaging is good, the formula, the way it wears is really good. It wears all day on me. For me, this is one of the very few foundations I've ever found that is dewy but also very long lasting. It wears so beautifully on the skin, and if they expand the shade range, I think a lot of people are really going to like this product. That is everything from me for today. If you enjoyed this video, then please validate my existence by subscribing to my channel. I usually upload every Sunday at 9 AM. Unfortunately, there won't be a video up next week because I'm going on holiday in a few days. I'm going to Italy, but I will be back the week after that with another video. In the meantime, look after yourselves, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!